on the News Channel 5 network. This is Open Line.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Open Line. Thank you for being with us tonight. We have a good show. We are talking about, does Nashville need to remove the use, stop using private for-profit prisons and jails? And there is a bill in the Metro Council that says we should do just that Nashville should stop using private prisons. So we want to hear from you, of course, but we're going to hear from the person who's sponsoring this, and that is Councilwoman Emily Benedict. Emily, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So you represent District 7, that's Inglewood and South Madison.
That's right.
And this is your first term, right?
That's right.
And so tell us a little bit about how did you come to this as a major issue?
So this is something that, I became aware last summer that the contract with CoreCivic is up at the end of this month, so this week actually, and then it came to my attention that the juvenile detention vendor, that contract is up at the end of this fiscal year in June, and there's been a climate of in the community and nationally that these for-profit prison operators really shouldn't be in the business of detaining inmates, that conditions are typically not as good as when we have state-run or community-run, public-run facilities. So as I ran on a platform of equity, sustainability, and experience, that equity piece is really where this ties in, is making sure that we're treating people in an equitable manner, that we ensure that their constitutional rights are protected, and that we also lift people up. So are they making the right wages? Are they receiving the right benefits?
So we've talked about this issue on the show before, but let's just kind of run down the numbers. How many people right now are incarcerated in a private prison in Davidson County? What would it mean if we no longer did that? I mean, what physically do we have to do? How many people have to get moved, and is there a cost? And just kind of what does it mean if we actually got rid of private prisons?
So it actually is, the idea here, the goal that I have is to take the one facility that we have. It's called the Metro Detention Facility, MDF, and it has, that's actually not a great name for it because these are state prisoners. They're Class E, which is the lowest level. They're sentenced between 1 and 6 years, and we like that they're here because they typically are from Middle Tennessee. So I believe it's right to keep them here. However, having it run by the for-profit organization I don't think is the right solution. I think today this contract is a state-funded contract, and those funds are managed and go through Metro to the sheriff's office, and the sheriff has oversight of this through his office.
And so it's one facility you're talking about. If your bill were to pass, it's one facility.
So that's the adult facility. There also are there is the juvenile detention center downtown that this would impact as well.
So if we don't use this private prison, if we don't have that, then it's up to the taxpayers, I guess. Do we have to build a prison? I mean, what do we do with those people if they are no longer under a private prison?
So the facility itself is owned by Metro, and it's interesting because it's on state land. So my proposal, although it's not written in the bill right now, my proposal does include a solution that I think is going to be great for taxpayers. This is something that is, to me, sorry, I lost my train of thought there, Ben. Is my first time on an hour-long TV show. I suppose that might happen.
No, that's all right. I guess just again the details as far as, okay, so right now we have all of these people that are kept in a for-profit jail. We do away with that. Where do they go? You're saying we own the facility.
That's right.
But not the land.
It's interesting. So that land down in Harding Place, 5115 Harding Place, that is where this facility is. There's also other metro facilities there, the Animal Control Center, for instance, and other facilities. That land is actually owned by the state, but we own the buildings that are on it. So there's a land lease agreement there that I think that we can handle this. So going back to the prisoners, we don't move these inmates. Those inmates stay in that facility under my plan. The thing is that we know one of the challenges that I think is critical to this is the reimbursement rate that the sheriff's office gets. Today, the sheriff has oversight to this, and he's required to take care of these prisoners at a rate of $37 per inmate per day. The private jail operator has an agreement with the state that a year and a half ago, when a study was published by Councilmember O'Connell and through the sheriff's office, it shows that CoreCivic at that time was receiving $58 per day. That is a rate that under the contract with the state continues to increase. I forget the number, but I think it's around $64, $65 right now, and it will continue to increase based on the agreement they have with the state. To me, that's where that's where the cost piece comes in. However, it's important for me to point out that that higher rate is being funded by Nashville taxpayers today. Nashville taxpayers contribute to the state, and so we are already paying for this, but I think it's important that we do what we can to bring that in-house and manage it at a lower rate. It'll save the state money, and it really is almost a wash for Nashvillians.
Have you talked to the sheriff about this, and what have you sensed that his feelings are about it?
I have spoken with the sheriff going back to last summer, and multiple times since then, especially since the bill was introduced. I think we have the best sheriff in the country. Sheriff Hall does a phenomenal job in everything that this city has asked him to do over the years. He's done a superb job. I would say he's the best, if not in the top 5 sheriffs in the country. And also, just excellent to work with, excellent to strategize with on how we can do this. I believe if we fund this and give him a dedicated revenue stream so that he can make sure that his costs are covered, that he would have no concerns, I think, in taking this on. I think one consideration there is timeline. He has a lot of things going on, 5 new facilities coming online through about a year from now. So I don't want to set anyone up to fail ever. I think it's critical that the timeline on this allows him to take this over. I come from a background working with large contracts, much like not in this industry, but much like the complexity of this agreement. And there is a transition time that takes between 6 and 12 months to move from this private operator to the sheriff's office.
The primary cost then would be hiring employees for the sheriff and for Davidson County. It would be hiring employees to run the facility that are now hired by a private company.
So that would really, so the nuts and bolts of it would be, in an ideal world, we hope that we pick up the employees that are there and then train them, give them the additional hours. I believe statistics show that public workers in prisons typically receive 56 hours of training, 58 hours of training more per year than private operators. They also earn on average $5,000 more per year. So, I think it's a real workforce opportunity for us to lift Nashvillians up. We also are focused on, more, these are our tax dollars. Whether they're done by the state or done through Metro directly, this is taxpayer money. I think it's important that we don't line executive pockets with the taxpayers' money. The 5 executives at the top of CoreCivic alone, which is a publicly traded company, so we can get access to this information as compared to on the juvenile side, those folks earned almost $12 million in 2018. Combined. So $4 million for the CEO. The average prison guard makes $44,000 a year. Mm-hmm. 100 times. What is that CEO doing that really is worth that when we've got the guard that's actually caring for the inmate?
So when might this happen? If your bill were to just sail through, what is the earliest we could actually get rid of private prisons and start operating it ourselves?
As quickly as the sheriff and as Judge Callaway can do it, and certainly no later than June 30th of 2022, the way the bill is written.
June 20th of 2022. So that would give you a couple of years.
That's right. That gives us a couple of years, first of all, again, to focus on that transition. What does that look like? And then secondly, to fund it.
And how optimistic are you that that can actually happen?
I believe it can. I think if the will is there, we can do it. When I made the announcement of my press release last November, there were as many as 18 council members that stood with me. So I think that the political will is there. I want to hear from the community, though, and I appreciate being on the show tonight, because it is up to the community, right? I'm not here to tell the taxpayers this is what we have to do. I need them with me in order to do this. I need them to continue to demonstrate to me that this is what they want us to do.
Bottom line, is this more expensive for Metro taxpayers, or does this save us money?
I think over time it's going to be neutral, cost neutral. I think there may be a startup cost, but I do have an amendment that I filed today that will be introduced next Tuesday at the council meeting, and that includes audit information. So when we fund this, should it cost more money to the taxpayers, we want to make sure that we're not overpaying for that. So we will run an audit on the operational cost that both, to run the juvenile detention center and the Metro Detention Center facility, so that we can ensure that we're not overpaying. I think the cost of $15 million a year that was done in the report published in December of 2018, I think that's high. This gives us the opportunity to prove it.
So that report said $15 million a year is what this would cost?
Yep.
And what do we pay now?
So currently, well, the state pays it right now.
Okay, so that would be an addition. That would be 10. I guess, would that then be $15 million that's not anywhere in our budget right now?
That's correct. However, as you look at what taxpayers are paying, this money is funneling through the state. This is state money, and just as you and I are out spending money and business tax and sales tax, that money goes, and transportation and gas tax, that money is going to the state. So Nashvillians are already paying this cost. We're just going to do it in a different way through property tax.
And so your bottom line argument is what? Why should we do this? Is it a money argument? Is it a moral argument? What is the bottom line reason why we should do this?
There's a couple things. I think it's a moral argument, first of all. Secondly, and again, I don't want to just call out the one operator, because there is an additional one with the Juvenile Detention Center. However, CoreCivic is they consider themselves a real estate investment trust now. So they're I think making a shift from running prisons to owning property. Well, if that's the case, and if that's what they want to do, then we need to take these operations back over. Only 6% of prisons in the U.S. are operated by private operators. It's clear that the public does this better.
It's clear the public does it better. And then when we have a $15 million line item at a time when our budget's pretty tight, what do you say to somebody that's very concerned about, we just can't do this right now financially? No, we got too many other things to deal with.
So I think my bill gives us the time to ramp up to that place. If this, again, I think it goes back to that political will, not just of the council and the mayor, but also of the community. If constituents don't support this, we have 2 years for them to let us know. 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm. And so when will the first vote be on this? So
it's up for second reading next week on Tuesday.
And how optimistic are you? What are you hearing from other council members?
Currently, I have 3 other council members signed on to it as co-sponsors, and I think we'll get into committee, and Budget and Finance Committee is going to be the first stop on Monday. I do sit on that committee, and I think that's going to be the opportunity to answer some questions from other members on that, and we'll see from there where we go.
All right. Well, we want to hear from you. What are your thoughts? We have a call here. Do we have time to take the call, or should we go to break? We can take the call. Let's take the call. John has just called in. John, hello? Are you there, John?
Yes, I am.
Go right ahead. What do you think? What's on your mind?
Well, first of all, I agree with Emily. And well, first, let me back up a minute. I was incarcerated for 10 years, and I know what for-profit prisons are. And if you can take that away and bring it back to the state, then that's a good idea. And while you're at it, take away the medical for-profit as well. A lot of people, well, let me give you an example. When I went to prison in 1990, the TB test was an x-ray of your lungs, and that could tell you right away. But when the for-profit healthcare came into the prison system, then the skin test was administered, and it took 3 days. Well, then if somebody had TB, then it would spread around, because
Right.
they did not quarantine you or anything like that. But through an x-ray, they could find out immediately and then quarantine you and separate you from other inmates. Now, another thing, at the for-profit prisons, you become a property of that corporation, because that's what it is a corporation. And they can take you across state lines. When the federal law says that they're not allowed to do that. But if they have a for-profit prison in another state that's also in this state, they can transport you across state lines, and then your family can't come see you. And that's not fair. That's really unfair. All right, rehabilitation. I've been out of prison 20 years. I have a successful business, and I've done well, and I'm considered an example, my friends say, I somehow overcame the system through
Right.
recidivism, because I never was a recidivism type person. I did my time. I learned my lesson. It cost me a lot, 10 years, and it was a serious crime through armed robbery. But what I'm saying, I do know about for-profits, because they had them when I was there, and they're wrong, because when you take an inmate across state lines, their family might not have the means to come and visit them.
Okay.
And, the visits are very important. And,
Right.
the money, the state has plenty of money. They need to work out their budgets. Nashville's not bankrupt by far, with all the growth.
All right, well,
they can figure this out.
They can figure it out. Thank you for your perspective. I appreciate that call. Thanks for the perspective. What do you think about what he's saying there?
I think, John, congratulations and thank you. It's taken a lot of hard work for you all, but to have avoided a repeat and so that rehabilitation piece, I think, is critical, and that's something, again, I think that the public does better than private. Now, a private operator is going to point out that they do have programs, but at the end of the day, their job is to gain more customers. Their job is to provide shareholder value, which means increased profits, which means more customers, which means more inmates. So private prisons are just one part of the criminal justice system that America feels like needs to be reformed right now. We incarcerate 25% of the world's prison population, and we only have 5% of the world's population. So this is something that clearly there's a movement behind nationally. I believe there's a movement here in Nashville, and as we heard from John, they have more of an interest in making money than they have in caring for their people.
What about the issue of transporting prisoners outside of Davidson County, where it would be harder for family members to visit?
I think that's a challenge, and that's something that I hope we don't do. The state has the ability to do that. I don't think it's in their interest. I think there would be some major concerns from the community about that. It is important. These are Class E felons. These are folks that are usually in for nonviolent crimes or smaller. These are not typically murderers and so it's really important to keep them near their family, so their family comes and visits them, which also increases the likelihood of rehabilitation as compared to recidivism.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, we will take a break. There's the number if you want to call in, 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. What are your thoughts? Should we do away with private prisons here in Davidson County? Take a break. Be back right after this.